Hey guys, I am going to do a flip through of my Washington, D.C. and Shenandoah art journal today, and stay tuned to the end where I give you 3 tips on how to make the most of your art journal on a vacation. Hey guys, I am about 2 weeks post vacation to Washington, D.C. with my kids and husband, and wanted to share my art journal. So this is essentially the kit I took with me, my Sendak artist roll with tons of goodies shoved into it, and then little paint palette and a couple other random things, but that was basically it. I had this Stillman and Byrne Alpha Series watercolor notebook that I got for a workshop and of course did not follow through with it. And I took it with me. I don't love the outside cover. So what I ended up doing is while I was at an art shop, I grabbed a piece of this is, that like nice wrapping paper, the flat sheets. And I just folded it around here and used cherry blossoms because of course it was cherry blossom like the peak of season while we were there. So I thought this was really nice, and it definitely more reflected the tone of our spring break trip. So I'm just going to do a quick flip through and point out a couple things that I do to make art journaling a little bit easier for me. I will start by telling you that vacations are hard to begin with. I have 2 small kids and a really crazy job at the moment. So it's very stressful for me in general to travel. And then my main goal when I'm traveling, if I was traveling by myself, would be just to do art all day. And of course, I don't have that luxury. So I have to find ways to make it enjoyable and to not, sort of intrude on the rest of the vacation for everyone else. So definitely there's a lot of journaling in here, and then there's lots of things that you'll see that I kind of just come back to. So on the plane, my 4-year-old and I were drawing some things together. So I was helping him just so this would be pretty masterful, I think, for a 4-year-old, but I was holding the pencil up here and he was holding it down here, and we were kind of drawing together. He made his little dude here with Crocs. These are the little shoes, and he's super into Spider-Man right now and had his little stuffy, so we drew that. And then while he was laying there listening to some music, I did a little profile sketch of him on the plane. So the plane is always a really great time, and this was really nice because having this open like this, he could do some stuff on this side and I could do stuff on this side, and he really enjoyed it. So that was a nice way to pass time. Here is him trying to draw an airplane, and then he got frustrated. So he drew another one and he wrote his name. So I started just sticking in some random bits from the trip. I like having all this kind of stuff. I particularly love having receipts. I always think it's nice to look back and see how much random things cost. So I always put that kind of stuff in here. So here is my first attempt at an actual drawing. They loved the Metro. My kids were obsessed with the Metro, and I didn't get around to drawing his face. So here's my youngest son looking through the bars of the Metro, and his face should go in here. He's wearing a big raincoat. I do like the perspective and everything that I was able to get, and I probably will go back and try to sketch in a face, but if you've seen any of my other sketchbook flip throughs or my Instagram account, you'll know that I struggle with faces. So that said, here is the JFK gallery photo. If you're unfamiliar with it, here's what it looks like. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's really large. And I was just really inspired to capture it. One, because the colors just really speak to me. I love the color palette. I love the abstract nature of it. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm just going to let the face go. But yeah, I was really excited to try this, and also just to see the other portraits. And we really enjoyed the portrait gallery, and the art, the other art in that museum is really beautiful. So here's a good example, I think, of what I typically try to do in a travel art journal, which is like a mix of everything, right? We have a little bit of scrapbookiness here. We have some actual illustration art. We've got some lettering, and then we have some sort of memories and such. And so I really do try to get as much as I can into here. I really like the way this one turned out. I keep coming back to, as I am exploring what is my style, and what, you know, if somebody was going to look at something and be like, oh yeah, that's Jenny Lynn's work, it's this illustration with bold lettering behind it or around it. I did the sketch very, very quickly. I was really focused on the perspective and the proportions, and I think I did a good job of capturing that. If I could do this differently again, I would definitely make him just larger on the page. And then these two styles of lettering are my go-to styles, mostly because they really lend themselves to colored pencils, which when I'm traveling is my preferred you know, method of adding lettering. But this is called Open Shaded Script. I learned this style from Ann Elser on Instagram. She's amazing. And then this pressure and release, I mostly learned from an artist named Jurgen, and he's also incredible. So I like to mix these two styles a lot. Another good example of just me kind of filling a page with a bunch of random thoughts, little notes from the day, some lettering, some you know, random scrapbooky stuff. So I knew I wanted to draw the National Monument, but we did not have time while we were there. And also it was very windy, and it was starting to rain, so did not have time for that. But I basically set a 5-minute timer, and this is what I came up with. This I was not able to do on site. I wanted to, but I didn't have time. So I took a photo, and I took this photo from the back of the Botanical Museum. And so this is like looking at the Capitol building through a lot of foliage, but I really love the perspective of it. And I was really trying to capture all of this color right now that was there, juxtaposed with still a lot of winter trees that don't have leaves on them. So I think I did a pretty good job of capturing that. It's, you know, very seasonal transition right now, but I like the way it turned out. I like the level of detail I was able to capture, and I thought this was a pretty successful piece. So my son and I took time at the Botanical Garden to do some sketching, and I don't have a sketchbook right now, but I wish I did. Maybe I'll insert a picture tomorrow. But he did the same photo. So we were sitting on a bench underneath this huge palm, and he drew the same photo and wrote "the view from below," my 6-year-old, and he was really proud of it. And so then I did the same. And so I like the way this one turned out. I was playing around. I wasn't sure whether to add, this is fountain pen ink, so it's water soluble. So I wasn't sure if I should go ahead. But I do like, I was really trying to capture the folds and the creases in the palm frond. And then it just, I learned that the more of this sort of imperfections that I captured, it looked a lot more natural. So I wish I had spent a little bit more time trying to capture the veining moving in different ways. You know, I really kind of just went to the middle for most of it, but there was definitely a lot more movement in that. But anyways, I still like the way this turned out. And all of this was with one pen, up a Pilot Parallel, and just a water brush at the end. And then this one I had to get because I just thought these were the coolest plants ever. It's a relative to the corpse flower. It was huge. It was smelly. I just thought it was so cool. So I got that one. So I really wanted to do a pop-up in here. I set out thinking like, I'm gonna find a way to make a pop-up in this book. And here is my very simple, yet I think successful pop-up. I do wish I had made it a little bit bigger and maybe not quite so drastic in the angle, but I like the way it turned out. This is a random little train car that was in the little city we were staying in outside of DC, and I think it turned out cool. I like it. We went to Luray Caverns. If you haven't been, it's definitely the most incredible caverns I've ever been in, and they were very, very cool. So I was able to capture just a little bit of that when we were there. Here's a night we were just sitting around making some s'mores and having a campfire, and I spent more time on the s'more and then just kind of threw a tree on here, and this is supposed to be my sketchbook with the campfire behind it. Okay, so we did a couple days of hiking and just driving around. So I drew this little piece and attached it. I like the way it came out. I tried to get some like moss and stuff on there. I thought that was pretty cool. And then lots of bits and pieces. I was particularly excited because at one of the visitor areas that we stopped at on Skyline Drive, they had this cool stamp that says Shenandoah National Park, and this specific visitor stop. So I was excited about that and did a whole bunch of impressions of the stamp. So one of the things that we did, or rather I guess my kids did, was scout around the property that we had at the Airbnb site. So it was a couple acres, and there was a little tiny wooded area. They were going around getting all the different foliage and stuff that had popped up for spring. So these beautiful yellow flowers, it's like you cannot drive a mile without encountering tons of these massive bushes of these yellow flowers all over, and they're so gorgeous. So here's the actual one that I put in a little pocket, and then here's a drawing that I made and then cut out and put in here. So I liked that. Here is this cool megalodon, which is a prehistoric shark that's like the size of a massive whale. And then, so I like the way I was really trying to capture the shading here, and then just some, moments I was trying to capture. This is another page that I thought was really successful. Again, I got a little scrapbooky. I got some thoughts or some memories down. I got some of my lettering in there, and then I really like the way that this butterfly and porterweed turned out. I was thinking about, it's really occurred to me now that we go to a lot more museums when we're traveling with the kids, that whenever we're going to particularly botanical gardens or anything that's like natural history, so much of it is based on things that we have, here down in South Florida. So we went and saw these butterflies, and basically it was just a room of Florida stuff. It was like bromeliads and porterweed and all these different, flowers that you would just see all over here. And it's funny, but it's also just a reminder of how, lucky we are to live in this very natural sort of paradise. So our flight ended up getting insanely delayed, and it wouldn't be so bad except, to try to keep two small kids occupied in a airport where essentially everything shut down at 8 p.m. was not so fun. So I was just drawing some random signs that happened to be around where we were sitting. And then here is the back of my son listening to the audiobook that he was obsessed with for the trip. And then here's some of my kids' memories. I want to share with you my 3 tips for getting the most out of your art journal if you are traveling, and particularly if you're traveling with other people and the main point of the trip is not to do art. which I suspect is the case for most of us. So the first thing is to sort of settle on a color palette and or tools and try to rein that in a little bit. As you can see from the art toolkit that I showed you, I brought a lot, but it was a lot of the same colors. You'll see here teals, turquoise, purples, and mostly I stick to that. And I think it lends some cohesion, even though I'm kind of all over the place in terms of what I'm adding. I also kind of stuck to watercolor pencils, some fountain pens, and a bit of brush lettering. So again, just not only does it create some cohesion throughout, but it also means that there's less for me to think about. And I still think this is a very impactful page, even though I only used one tool, right? So like here, I used two tools. I used the fountain pen for this purplish color, pinkish color, and then everything else was done with a Tombow brush pen that has a brush side and a fine liner marker side. Don't be afraid to fill spaces. Tip number 2. So, I mean, I took up a whole page with some lettering and some journaling, and sometimes I just added, something like this. And I knew at that point that I was going to have plenty of pages. So I just started kind of filling the pages, and I think that that's okay. I wanted to do more here, but I didn't. And, that would be tip number 3, which is start with rough sketches. And if you don't have time, come back to it or don't come back to it. So again, I had a bigger vision for this. I was going to add some other elements that popped up, and I didn't get to it. I gave myself about an hour and a half when I got home to fill in some things, like I added some watercolor and such here, and sort of, put some finishing touches on things and stick in some other elements that I had, stuck in my luggage. But other than that, I want this to be something that we can go back to. And I don't think that if we look at this in, 5 or 10 years, that I'm going to be like, oh man, that sucks, I didn't finish the rest of this. It's not a contest to see if you can finish something, although it is very satisfying to finish it. It's not even going to bother me if I come back and I didn't draw in my little guy's face here, although I still feel like I want to. But all I'm saying is it's enough that there were attempts made, for me at least. And so those would be my 3 tips. Again, sticking to a sort of cohesive or simplified color palette and tools, not being afraid to fill space with big letters, scrapbooky type stuff, and then giving yourself the freedom to just put in some sketches. And some of them you might go back in and make them a little bit more final, and others you might just leave as is and call it a day and just be happy that you were able to capture, some moment on your trip. So I would love to know what you guys think, and if you keep art journals when you're traveling. If you do, drop a little book emoji down in the comments and let me know what your preferred method of art journaling on vacation is. If you're interested, I do have another video up about this art toolkit. I absolutely love it. It keeps so much stuff in it, and is so rugged. And I also have another video where I show everyone how I added these grommets and put a strap on it so that I can wear it if I'm doing like standing sketching and stuff. So if you're interested in that, take a look at those videos. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much. Have a great day.